Karen had my unmarked FBI surveillance vehicle towed at 2 in the morning, insisting it was abandoned. But when she unlocked the door to photograph the inside, she crossed a federal line. The charge that followed was not something her HOA title could make disappear. My name is Tony, and I am a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation based in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have spent 16 years working organized crime and public corruption cases, running surveillance operations that depend on discretion, patience, and vehicles that never draw attention. My work regularly involves long stakeouts, undercover activity, and sensitive procedures that cannot be disrupted. What Karen did not realize when she fixated on my car was that she interfered with federal law enforcement property during an active investigation, a violation the Bureau treats with absolute seriousness. I live in Silver Springs, a subdivision built in 2016 on the northwest side of Las Vegas. The neighborhood is home to families, retirees, and working professionals. The HOA handles landscaping, maintenance, and shared spaces. For 4 years, I lived there quietly, keeping the low profile my job requires. Then Karen moved in 6 houses down. She had perfectly styled blonde hair and carried herself like she alone was responsible for enforcing order across the entire neighborhood. Within 2 months, she was elected to the HOA board and soon after became president. Her obsession was vehicles. Anything she thought looked unattractive, suspicious, or out of place became a problem. My work vehicle quickly caught her attention. The FBI uses many unmarked vehicles for surveillance. Mine is a silver 2019 Toyota Camry, completely stock, no decals, no special plates, no visible equipment. It looks like every other mid-size sedan on the road, which is exactly why it works. There is nothing on it that suggests it belongs to the federal government. To anyone else, it is just another dull commuter car. I park in my driveway when I am home and occasionally leave on the street overnight if I am using my personal truck. The car is fully registered, insured, and legally parked. Karen decided it looked abandoned. 3 weeks after she became president, the first notice appeared on the windshield. Unidentified vehicle parked on street for extended period. Must be moved or will be towed per HOA parking regulations. I reviewed the HOA bylaws. There was language about inoperable or abandoned vehicles, but nothing specifying time limits for street parking. The street itself is county property, outside HOA authority. I ignored the warning and moved the Camry into my driveway. A week later, I was assigned surveillance operation that kept me out for 3 straight nights. I left the Camry on the street because my personal truck was blocking the driveway, and I did not want to shuffle vehicles at 2 in the morning when I returned home. On the 3rd night, I got back at 1:45 a.m. after a long stakeout. The Camry was gone. I immediately called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher confirmed the vehicle had been towed by Desert Auto Recovery at the request of the Riverbend HOA for being abandoned. I was angry but stayed calm. I contacted the towing company and told them I needed the car released immediately. They gave me the impound address and said it would cost $350. I drove there and paid the fee. When they brought the Camry around, I performed my standard security check before leaving. That was when I saw the problem. The driver's side door lock had fresh scratches consistent with a Slim Jim or lockpick. The door had been forced. Inside, the glove box was open. Papers in the center console had been shifted. Someone had been inside the vehicle. I drove home, parked in my garage, and called my supervisor, Special Agent in Charge Rebecca. I told her someone had broken into the surveillance unit. I explained it was towed by the HOA and that there was clear evidence of forced entry and an interior search. She immediately asked if any equipment had been compromised. I told her no. I never leave operational equipment in the vehicle overnight. But an unauthorized person accessed a federal law enforcement vehicle. She said that was felony tampering and instructed me to file a report with Metro and prepare the car for our evidence response team. I contacted the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and filed a vehicle tampering report. Then I reviewed my home security footage. The cameras cover my driveway and part of the street. The video showed the tow truck arriving at 2:15 a.m. But before it hooked up the Camry, another vehicle pulled up, a white Lexus SUV I immediately recognized as Karen's. She stepped out, circled the Camry while taking photos with her phone, then tested the door handles. When they didn't open, she pulled something from her purse that looked like a Slim Jim, worked the driver's door for about 2 minutes, and got it open. She spent 5 minutes inside the car with a flashlight, clearly searching through the interior, opening compartments, and snapping photos of what she found. Then she shut the door and waved the tow truck forward. Everything was captured on camera. Clear footage showing Karen forcing entry into my vehicle and conducting a search. I saved the video and forwarded it to Rebecca and to the Metro Police detective assigned to the case, Detective Harrison. Detective Harrison came out the following morning. Mr. Delgado, this footage clearly shows vehicle burglary and tampering. The fact that this is a federal vehicle significantly escalates the situation. What charges are we looking at? I asked. He explained there would be state charges for vehicle burglary and criminal tampering, but because the vehicle belonged to the FBI, federal charges were also likely for interference with federal law enforcement operations. Even though the vehicle was not actively operational at that moment, it was still federal property used for official duties. I told him I understood. Rebecca coordinated with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and she assigned an FBI evidence response team to process the Camry. They documented the forced entry, lifted fingerprints from the door and interior, and confirmed that Karen's actions met the definition of unauthorized access to federal property. The U.S. Attorney's Office reviewed the evidence and approved federal charges. Karen was charged with tampering with a vehicle used in federal law enforcement operations, a felony that carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison. At the state level, she was also charged with vehicle burglary and criminal mischief. Karen was arrested 3 days later. Federal agents and Metro Police executed the arrest at her home at 6 in the morning. I was not present, but multiple neighbors saw it happen, and word spread quickly. The neighborhood Facebook page filled with rumors and speculation. Karen's attorney attempted to argue that she was performing legitimate HOA duties by inspecting an abandoned vehicle before towing it, but the video made that argument impossible to sustain. The footage showed her using a tool to force the door open, which is never acceptable HOA conduct. It showed her rummaging through the interior, which had nothing to do with determining whether a vehicle was abandoned. And most importantly, the vehicle had been legally parked on a public street. Her attorney tried to negotiate a plea agreement, but the U.S. Attorney's Office would not compromise. Tampering with federal law enforcement property is treated seriously because it can jeopardize investigations and put agents at risk. The case went to federal trial 4 months later. I testified about how the vehicle was used for FBI operations, how I discovered the forced entry, and what the security footage showed. The evidence response team testified regarding the damage and unauthorized access. Detective Harrison testified about the state investigation. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They returned guilty verdicts on the federal tampering charge and on both state charges. The judge sentenced Karen to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. She was also ordered to pay $4,000 in restitution to cover the cost of processing the vehicle, replacing locks, and my time dealing with the incident. The HOA board removed her as president immediately after conviction. They issued a formal apology to me and clarified that towing would only occur for legitimate safety concerns, not personal or aesthetic complaints. A retired Air Force officer named Michael was elected as the new HOA president. He contacted me directly to apologize and to assure me that the new board had no interest in harassing residents over legally parked vehicles. Karen served 14 months of her sentence at a federal correctional facility in California. After her release on supervised conditions, she moved out of state. Her home in Silver Springs was sold while she was incarcerated. The Camry was returned to service once the evidence team cleared it. I still use it for surveillance work, though it now has upgraded locks and additional security measures. The case is now used at the FBI Academy as a training example on the importance of securing vehicles and documenting any suspected tampering immediately. It is also referenced to illustrate what constitutes federal vehicle tampering and why those cases are aggressively prosecuted. Several neighbors approached me after the trial to express support and apologize for not speaking up sooner when Karen was targeting residents. One neighbor told me she was relieved someone finally held Karen accountable for abusing her authority. I still live in Silver Springs. The neighborhood is quiet now, and the HOA focuses on real community issues instead of micromanaging people's lives. My vehicles, both the Camry and my personal truck, park wherever I need them without issue. Occasionally, when reviewing old files, I see the security footage again, and it still amazes me that Karen believed forcing open a locked car and searching through it was acceptable HOA enforcement. She saw a vehicle she did not recognize and assumed her authority extended to breaking into it. She never considered that some vehicles belong to federal law enforcement, and that tamper with them carries consequences that cannot be brushed off with an apology or fine. If you have ever dealt with an HOA president or board member who damaged your property while claiming authority, or someone has broken into your vehicle insisting they had the right, share your experience in the comments. Send this to anyone who needs a reminder that HOA authority has limits and that breaking the law in the name of enforcement has real consequences. And subscribe for more stories about people who mistake a neighborhood title for immunity from prosecution. Sometimes the vehicle you decide to break into belongs to exactly the wrong.